Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph and this is Major Hi-Fi. Some of my favorite headphones on the market are made by the company Focal. If you've ever heard of the Utopia, the Clear, or the Elegia, you'll know that these are highly regarded headphones in the audiophile world. So when I heard about the closed-back version in that line, the Focal Elegia that recently came out, I was super excited to give them a listen. And I was curious, does their sound just stand up to the others in that line? Well, let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Focal Elegia. So let's see what's inside the box. Alright, so as you'll see here, first we've got some documentation, user manual, a 1/4-inch adapter, cable, 1.2 meters with a 3.5mm connector on this side, and then the dual connectors on the other side that attach to the ear cups, the headphones themselves, and this gorgeous carrying case here seems really high quality and just really nice in general. So as you'll see here, there are actually quite a few similarities between this design and the Focal Utopia, Clear, and Elegia. The headband has a very similar shape. It's coated in the same sort of leather material. There's perforated microfiber underneath it here. Also, there's sort of this aluminum extender and yoke that attaches to both sides of the ear cups. These are spring-loaded, so you can sort of see how it will adjust to sort of the shape of your head. Obviously, the ear cups are closed back for these ones. That's really the main difference between these and the others in the line. But they still have this very classy look to them, this sort of look of perforation, these little craters evenly spaced along the ear cup here, and also just this really good looking silver shiny Focal logo right here in the middle. The ear pads as well, these are microfiber, no perforation here, and you can sort of see straight through. I'm trying to see if I can show you straight through to the drivers under there. I'm really curious. Let's see how these feel. So comfortable. I really can feel that the entirety of my head is, the length of my head is touching this headband, making it feel really balanced. The ear cups are super soft, and yeah, wow, definitely blocks out a fair amount of noise. And yeah, I mean, the ear cups are pretty large, but they, I'm sort of looking at myself in the viewfinder there. They actually don't come across as large as, like, when I hold them in my hands, I'm like, yeah, these are pretty big. But when I put them on, it's like, oh, they're actually a little bit, they're like more reasonable than I thought, which makes me kind of excited, because it's like, making these headphones more portable is sort of the key, I think. Not only are they closed back, but they also are very efficient, and so that makes them good for portable use as well as stay-at-home use. As for the cable, definitely the thickness of it has me feeling that it's a little bit bulky. It's also coated in cloth, so it's a little bit stiff, but that said, it's a really good length, very manageable length, and that's definitely a plus. One thing to be aware of is that this cable, you've got to sort of take care of it, because if you bring it along on, in sort of dirtier places, this cloth could get dirty. It's white and black, so just be aware of that. But otherwise, it just feels very well made, really strong. The connectors are kind of nice and sturdy, and just feel very well made. Like, they didn't really cut any corners with these. I am excited to give these a listen, so for this first listening session, just first impressions, I'm going to listen to it straight from my phone. The reason being that because these are marketed as, being a portable headphone, I want to see how it is with a bare bones setup just through my phone. Throughout the week, I'll listen with a few other setups, including more sophisticated DACs and amps. But for now, I am curious to see how it just works straight to the phone. So let's get into it here. Nice and sound isolating again. And yeah, oh man, the ear pads are so comfortable. Alright, let's see here. I was just listening to the song Roll With The Punches by Dawes, and the kick drum sort of sat underneath everything. There was adequate space for it. It felt like there was really nice extension there for the kick to live and do its thing. But overall, the sound signature kind of seemed to tilt away from it, like the kick wasn't overly emphasized or wasn't sort of like brought out in any interesting way. It felt flat, realistic, like it was sort of playing the role that it needed to play, but without kind of taking any energy away from anything else. It also had a pretty adequate sense of decay, and I liked that because it kind of it had just a sense of spaciousness down there. Wow, oh my gosh, this mid-range of these headphones is really super fun actually. So for one, there's really a sense of quickness with these headphones. The bass guitar, I was just listening to the song Miles Runs the Voodoo Down, and the bass guitar in that song, it's sort of this mixture between these shorter notes and then these really long kind of whole notes. And as the song gets on, the notes kind of become like shorter, and I really felt this sense of like danciness with the bass as the song went on that I could just feel from the movements and the quickness of these. The keys and the guitars in the song are sort of like panned outward, and they really just felt like they were floating there and had this sense of spaciousness. And likewise, it was really kind of an interesting mix because there's really this sort of sense of like mellowness and warmth mixed with the sense of quickness, which gives it all this detail and sort of realism. So it is like a really interesting mid-range. And likewise, the high mids sit in sort of an interesting way too. When I was just now listening to the song Don't Take the Money by Bleachers, and the opening sort of, I think it's like a looped guitar, like kind of synthy sounding, but also kind of guitar-y sounding thing. That sort of came in a little bit like ducked and more mixed in than it usually sort of feels in the song. But then when the vocal came in, it felt like it was a little bit higher, more present in the mix than usual. It still felt like pretty full, like the other information was there, but just sort of something in the high mids was sticking out a little bit, giving extra sort of presence and articulation to that vocal. Yeah, I was just listening to the song Slow Burn by Casey Musgraves, and it definitely feels like there's this high frequency emphasis. I can hear really nice texture of the snares and the snare drum. Also sort of the hi-hat felt a little bit, how do I put this? It's very like tight, kind of bright, a little bit less chunky than it is usually. Not that it's overly chunky before, but just it feels a little bit like smaller, a little bit like tighter. Yet I can really hear that attack. And I really get a sense of quickness. I mean, overall the entire frequency spectrum, but it really comes through, especially with the highs and sort of the rhythm guitar, the acoustic. Additionally, Casey's vocal really felt very present, very kind of airy and light, and her vocals sort of mixed brightly anyway, and it usually sort of feels airy, but with this it was even airier and felt even higher in the mix than it usually does. Wow. The Soundstage is probably my favorite thing about these headphones. I was just listening to the song My Honey and Me by The Emotions, and in that song, the song's very mid-rangey, but it uses reverbs and kind of room mics, I guess, to really give a sense of like depth to each instrument, give it its own sort of like character and space. And wow, I don't know, the headphones really just recreated that space really beautifully, both because of the mid-range clarity, but also just because of how quick they are. I really could feel the drums back in space. The guitars and the keys really just expanded outward, yet the vocals still maintained that sense of intimacy and also lived really kind of like high in the vertical sort of domain. I'm gonna keep listening and see how things sort of progress, especially with a dedicated DAC that will make this even more pronounced. So yeah, stay tuned. I will meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the Elegia are really nicely done. They're super even and quick responding, yet they actually sit sort of quieter in the mix than I was expecting. However, there's so much spaciousness and extension down there that it really leaves a lot of room for the low frequencies to do their thing. So even though they come across a little bit quieter in the mix, they actually come through with a lot of detail and still are able to really contribute the role that they're meant to play. The low mids and the middle part of the mid-range felt flat and even overall. They were full and powerful, and though, like the low end, still had a lot of spaciousness around them. So even though they were full and there was a lot of energy there, they didn't really step on anything else's toes. The mid-range really came through with a sense of quickness, and so instruments in the mid-range that kind of have a lot of transients or just in general kind of contribute rhythmically to the song also contribute to the groove and create sort of a sense of danciness to it. Things like acoustic guitar, chuggy electric guitar, pizzicato strings, dancey piano, all came through with a lot of character actually. The high mids sounded a little bit uneven, and they sat a little bit higher in the mix than normal. So mid-range rich instruments, especially things that had high mid information, kind of sat slightly differently in the mix tonally, however, mostly maintained their levels, except for things that really sat prominently in the high mids, like vocals, sometimes came across as sitting a little bit higher in the mix. Overall, the lower treble and the upper treble both equally felt boosted, and as a result, the headphones kind of came through in a bright sort of way. However, they did sort of make high-frequency rich instruments sit slightly differently in the mix tonally. Yet the highs were still very clear sounding, very open sounding, and really created a nice sense of texture and a nice sense of detail that felt great with vocals, it felt great with cymbals, and even though it sort of shaped things a little bit differently. My favorite part of these headphones was the Soundstage. Because of the quickness and really across the entire frequency spectrum, there was just such a great sense of spaciousness and depth and width. The height was kind of interesting because it wasn't particularly precise, but still came through with a sense of kind of directionality. So things really did sit kind of differently in the vertical domain, but it wasn't particularly nuanced. However, in regard to the sense of depth and the sense of width, I felt a lot of nuance in those domains. And additionally, because the mid-range is so clear and so spacious, room mics, reverbs, and other sort of mix techniques that sort of create a sense of space to begin with came through with so much clarity, so it really felt like a lot of fun listening to these headphones, especially for music like that. Overall, the Focal Elegia is a super fun headphone and one that definitely has a lot of character. I also think it's a really great value because you can both really enjoy it for listening at home, but you can also take these on the go. If you're looking for something with a big bass or a kind of more neutral sound signature, these really won't be the ones for you. But if you're looking for something with a lot of detail, a big soundstage, and something that's actually really super comfortable, I think you'll really enjoy the Focal Elegia. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright, I will see you next time. Bye. And from all of us here at Major Hi-Fi, happy Halloween.